Hello, everybody. Today I'm talking about Ketu Mahadasha. This is part of the Vimshottari Mahadasha Masterclass. Ketu Mahadasha is 7 years long. It is a very important dasha to understand because it can be quite complex. Hello, I'm Komilla Sutton, and we are talking about Ketu Mahadasha. Do remember to subscribe, press the bell notification, and also sign up for my newsletter. Once a month, sometimes twice a month, I send out a newsletter. It's very informative. And if you go on my website, komilla.com, you'll find to subscribe for it. So let us talk about Ketu Mahadasha. So Ketu, let's look at the basics. Ketu Dasha is 7 years long. And it is very complex because Ketu is headless in all the descriptions of Ketu. So we can get very headless during Ketu Mahadasha. So we have to be careful that we are not making big mistakes during that time. So after Mercury, which is super intellectual and analytical. And then we come into Ketu, which is not analytical at all. It deals with the heart, it deals with idealism. Ketu is regarded as moksha karaka. So moksha karaka means it is looking for idealism. Moksha is self-realization, but we don't always get self-realization. It's very rare for people to get. Therefore, Ketu can be extremely idealistic. And so as we start the dasha, we can start rejecting things and letting go of things. So this is important to understand that not everything is useless in your life. And if you start Ketu Dasha, then you don't want to let go of everything. Maybe some little trimming of your tree of life of things that are necessary, but not to totally cut away from the roots and make yourself rootless. This is most important factor. Then, of course, Ketu being headless means that we are intuitively thinking about things, but not necessarily rationalizing them. So sometimes, you will say Ketu doesn't make sense, what I'm thinking, what I'm wanting. So to stay calm and take time. Ketu also represents past life and knowledge of past life information. And what I suggest usually is that Ketu also is very good for astrology and studying astrology, doing something spiritual. You can do yoga, you can do Vedic philosophy, other philosophy. This is important because you are making use of Ketu Dasha and in the positive way. Ketu is not materialistic as such. However, Ketu can give big success. Don't feel that Ketu will not give success. Sometimes it is like a dhwaja, a flag. So it can rise you up totally. But the problem is we don't know how it is going to behave. Generally, Ketu in the 3rd house, 6th house, 10th and 11th house is well placed. You can study that from your moon and also from your sun. So ascendant, moon, sun. But ascendant is important. You look at Ketu from those house positions. And of course, in Ketu, you will get the rare Ketu Rahu Dasha because that happens only twice, either Rahu Ketu, Ketu Rahu. It is important to remember that Ketu is a shadow planet. So not everything is understandable because it's all very psychological, very hidden away. What I find with Ketu especially is that Ketu represents a past life, but we can't just say, okay, I want this information, give it to me. So if you're doing spiritual things, you're just staying calm and not getting into a tizzy, then Ketu can give a lot of nice information as well. So, having 7 years of Ketu Dasha you have to always, with Rahu Ketu both, but you have to stay calm and take things slowly, and good to focus on spiritual things. And especially towards the end of Ketu Dasha is also important, because you don't want to let go of everything towards the end of Ketu Dasha as well. And then it is important to turn the chart around and to see what is the indication from Ketu's point of view. Of course, Ketu will have Rahu in the 7th house. So Ketu Dasha can always bring marriage relationships, because 7th house is occupied. Ketu also, what I find is, sometimes can bring a lot of relatives and people from past life, people who we can't do anything about because karmic issues can come up. But relatives, family members, all those people, they represent somehow Ketu, because they are past life energies. They're why we have them as relatives. We can't change them. But Ketu can also bring issues, sometimes unusual aspect of it. But from Ketu's point of view, you want to see how the other planets are placed, so that you can make a decision about when the Dasha Bhuktis, how they are going to act with. And especially any planets placed 6th, 8th or 12th from Ketu, they can bring more unsettled energy. So during their time period, you need to be very cautious, careful. Overall, with Ketu Dasha, we are being cautious and careful. It is 7 years, and although 7 years after the 17 years of Mercury seems quite less, but it is still very important, and to keep that in mind. So let us explore how the sub-dashas will react and what to look out for. So, of course, the most important time is Ketu. That is the first period that comes in, and that is like suddenly, after years of Mercury and analytical Mercury, you suddenly come out to Ketu, which doesn't analyze everything, feels rather than analyzes. So this is always a time to watch out for. They don't last very long, the sub periods in Ketu, because overall it's just 7-year period. And to also remember that Ketu's element is fire. So you can have a lot of fire, anger, frustration, also fire of ideas. Ketu is multicolored. So the start of Ketu can give a multicolored experience. As you notice today, I'm wearing multicolored clothes, because in honor of Ketu. So you see that there can be lots of different ideas coming down. And what is very important at Ketu is that you don't let go of your security. Try to keep your feet on the ground. Be realistic, because Ketu is not realistic. So you've got to be extra cautious. Then we come to Ketu Venus. Of course, Venus is the guru of the Daityas. So Venus will calm Ketu down. Of course, you have the benefic energy after Sub-dasha. And depending on how Venus is placed in your chart, you would need to look at that to see how it is going to be for you. And then you need to look at Venus is Karaka for marriage, relationships. It's also the guru advising, giving good knowledge. Then we come to Ketu, Sun. Ketu is inimical to the Sun. So this dasha may not be very good, you may reject all things about power and people in authority. And I think it's a short period, Ketu Sun, but to be careful, because Sun, unless it's very well placed in your chart, it is important to take care during this dasha. And then you get Ketu Moon. And Ketu Moon, of course, again, Rahu Ketu are inimical to Sun and Moon. So Moon also, it can be very emotional, very sensitive. You can feel vulnerable at that time, and you can feel overly emotional. So it is good to do spiritual things, meditation, mantra chanting. All those things are important for you. Ketu Mars. Ketu, but Mars, Ketu acts like Mars. So, it's like a double Mars, double heated up energy. The thing about Mars is it can push Ketu to do things, and it can create a bigger energy and a more bigger and bigger. So it can also be frustrating. And always discipline yourself. Ketu Mars, be disciplined, be conscious, and be careful during that time that you're not overdoing things. And Ketu Rahu, this is one of the 2 times you'll get Rahu Ketu together. So Rahu Ketu are karmic planets. So karmic planets mean there's some inevitability about them. The events that happen, things that happen, they're like destiny points. So difficult to make a decision. Rahu is also in the 7th house. So it can bring relationships, and Rahu can also bring fear and anxiety that I'm not doing enough, and you have to calm that situation down. However, this is the time when the past and the present are both together. So in a way, you can spend this time thinking about meditating on this concept that why are you here? What are your desires? What are important? What are not important? And maybe not acting on them, and seeing how that develops. Then comes Ketu Jupiter. Jupiter will calm Ketu down. That should be, if they are well placed to each other, even if they are more difficult. Jupiter is the guru. He's a more calming influence to Ketu. Then Ketu Saturn, 2 malefics together. Ketu says, give it all up. Saturn says, face the music. So they're going in opposite directions. So sometimes, there can be a lot of irritation because one part of you is avoiding responsibility, wanting to run away, look for moksha. Whereas Shani says moksha is only possible if you pay attention to your duties and responsibilities. So that is important factor. Then the last sub-dasha is of Ketu Mercury. Mercury is, giving some ideas to Ketu, but it's also the end of Ketu Dasha. So always end of dashas, they are Chidra dashas. We have to be extraordinarily careful that we don't make decisions that will impact in the next dasha. But, keep calm and don't rush to make decisions. And Ketu is more difficult towards the end because Ketu is seeking moksha, and he thinks all the other things, worldly things, practical things, they are useless. I want to reject family, friends, everything. And at Ketu Mercury, you don't want to do, because you come on to Venus next. So Venus is 20 years long, much nicer. So you want to keep that Ketu under control, keep it under calm, and Ketu Mercury is most important. So that what are the remedies you can do for Ketu? Again, with Ketu, it is very important to do remedies. On a practical level, you should be conscious that you don't want to let go of everything. You want to keep your security. You want your jobs, your money. Don't just change for the sake of changing. And, sometimes in Ketu Dasha, people get all very nervous and stressed out, and they're seeking, but think that what is meant to for you to get, you will get wherever you are. You don't have to go from one place to the other, and you don't have to make yourself too anxious. But however, these things are helped if you're doing some more spiritual things. So yogically, meditation, spiritual action, doing some yoga, it calms you down, following some Vedantic teaching, studying. And I would say one of the best remedies for Ketu Dasha is to study Jyotish, Vedic astrology. Because that is what makes you understand the purpose of life, who you are. It throws light on your karma. And Ketu loves that. And that will be a way of balancing yourself. Ketu Mahadasha or Ketu Bhuktis also are very good for doing the studies and everything. And then the spiritual aspect is Ketu's deity is Lord Ganesha. We can pray to Lord Ganesha to show us the light, to unblock the obstacles for us, and to worship him. So the Lord Ganesha mantra, I think that is the best one. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. If you can go to a temple, you can visit, you can meditate opposite his idol, you can pray to him. And especially when you feel very anxious and worried about it, or if you can go to, there are a number of temples in India that are dedicated to Lord Ganesha. And in all the temples, Lord Ganesha is there.